Good evening. I'm going to talk initially about the Tale of Two Cities. Last year, I was invited to two different Interfaith Thanksgiving services. One here, which was very similar to what you're witnessing tonight and what we've clearly been doing for the last 49 years. The other was at a shul I belong to in North Brunswick, Congregation B'nai Tikva, which is also part of a large, diverse community. And they had planned on having an interfaith Thanksgiving service at the shul in North Brunswick. And as you all recall, last year, that was about a month after hostilities had broken out in the Middle East. And while they had planned on having multiple houses of worship coming to their service, they invited the mayors of East Brunswick and North Brunswick and South Brunswick. We were all there. The shul was obviously there. There was one pastor from a brand new church that had opened in the region. Everybody else either canceled or didn't show up. Now, that's not to say that in our little Anatevka, in our community, that we never have our disagreements and that we never have differences of opinions, or that no one's ever disappointed in the way in which a community may have been treated or perceived to have been treated. But in East Brunswick, we have had uninterrupted Thanksgiving services that are interfaith-based for 49 years straight. And while the conflict in the Middle East currently draws a lot of attention and spotlight, in 49 years, there have been multiple conflicts and multiple disputes and social and political controversial issues. We all managed to figure out in ways that either we agree or agree to disagree, but we've been able to manage to carry on here in our community. One of the privileges that I have as being mayor is the ability to marry couples. And every single time I do that, I see that no different than a community of different groups of individuals coming together. I try to give them advice on how to perpetuate and continue a relationship long term, because it's so easy to just give up and walk away. Really easy to do that. It's much harder to try to keep couples together, communities together. And I always tell them, look at it as a journey. In a journey, you don't really know which way it's going to go. Many times it's great. You're going to have some highs that you'll be on. You'll think that you're untouchable, and it's wonderful. But that could also be followed by times where you hit some lows, or you go onto side roads that you had never even thought you may be on. In order for you to keep that union together, and again, that could be a marriage, it could be a community, you have to figure out the tools that you need to keep that community together. You have to fit, and that basically boils down, like everything, to communication. Figuring out how to build bridges and not walls. When we do that, we develop techniques, things that we rely on. First and foremost, you have to have an understanding that if we're going to communicate, lines of communication need to remain open. That's why I'm thankful that we have a clergy council that sits and brings all the community together, that whatever issue comes to their table, they approach it together. Again, they may not always agree, but they approach it together. We have to all agree, each person, each group, each organization, that everybody has a voice. We want to hear from everybody, even if it's something that we disagree about or may even find offensive. We need to know that each person is free to speak their voice. We have to have an appreciation for our history. We could disagree over how you interpret events. You could disagree over comments, over actions, but our history is a bedrock. It cannot waver. It's not debatable. Without your history of either your religion or your country or your people, without your history, you are rudderless. You have no idea where you are. You're in the middle of the ocean with no compass. You have no basis of where you come from or where you're going to. You have to understand your history. You have to listen to your mother. Before you pass judgment on someone else, make sure you've walked in their shoes. Understand their perspective. In nature, as a scientist, I'm taught to recognize that everything in life has an equilibrium. Nature seeks balance, seeks an equilibrium. It wants to restore fairness. And in doing so, you have to recognize that many times you have to compromise. There has to be moderation. You have to come to the middle. You can't always get your way. Martin Luther King said that the arc of the moral universe is bent towards justice, and that's true. But that road, that journey, has bumps. You move forward, you move back. You move forward. The trajectory is forward, but it's not always straight. I mean, the history of racism in this country is an example of that. We had moments where we had made great strides, and then we had Reconstruction era where we went backwards. So that's the nature of but the trajectory, the arc of the moral compass, the moral universe is bent towards justice. Sometimes you just have to agree that at the end of all of the discussions, we have to agree to disagree. But you could do that without being disagreeable. And that's normal. That's okay. And when we're done, we can go out to dinner. And finally, there's a moral dictum in Judaism called tikkun olam, which translates to repair the world. Our role in life is to bring the next generation, to provide them with a world that is infinitely better than the one that we have. And I know there's other religions and other ethnicities that have something, they may call it something different, but they all want the same thing. You want a better world for your children than the one that you have. And that's how we move things forward. So remember in our actions, your children are watching. So on behalf of this township and its many houses of worship here today, I wish each and every one of you a very happy, healthy, and meaningful Thanksgiving and holiday season, and I look forward to 2025 when we can celebrate a half century of interfaith Thanksgivings.